Gray's office.
We wanted to welcome the new fiction editor.
I bought it for us. I should have asked you first.
I love it. Oh my God. Christian.
This is Jim Mateo, the architect.
This location is perfect. I'm going to build you a fabulous house.
Please stop speaking to my husband as if I weren't here.
Anna.
You may call me Mrs. Gray.
Hello and welcome to What the Flick. I am Christy, that is Alonso, that is Matt. It's Valentine's Day, kinda, it's coming soon. So you know what you get from us? You get a third 50 Shades movie. That's how much we love you. We also love you enough to tell you that this is the last one. There are no more. Woo-hoo! There are no more books, there are no like Christian Grey prequels. I hope, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm talking out
I
of
bet
my
there's
ass.
tons of fanfic.
Anyway.
Fanfic based on the fanfic.
So he's freed now. Please
All right.
tell us about it.
50 Shades Freed is the story of Anastasia Steele and Christian Grey. Movie starts out with them tying the knot in front of people for once. They are married.
I see what you did.
They get married and things are seemingly wedded bliss, but maybe there's cracks because Anastasia Steele has a mind of her own and maybe isn't the complete submissive that Christian Grey thinks that he has married. Let's watch a clip.
So you want to play?
Yes, sir. Christian.
I made a vow to love you faithfully, forsaking all others,
Did you sleep with her?
to comfort you in times of need, and to keep you safe for as long as we both shall live.
The thing is, though, that Christian always knew that Anna thought for herself, right?
Yes.
She's always been
She's
like
been a bossy
top
bottom
backy.
from the jump.
Right, but he still acts surprised.
Here's the thing about this movie.
Miffed, even.
Miffed.
Pouter. He pouts like a child.
Oh God, does he pout? No, look, I am totally all for, you know, people who are not, whose idea of a fantasy is not about like superpowers, to have this fantasy of like insane wealth and like hot sex. But these movies are never hot. I mean, the sex is so boring.
Yeah.
There is so much like face-to-face missionary in this movie for all the like kink we're promised. And it's, you know, you start with the wedding, which usually in a story like this would be the culmination. And there's not enough actual personality of either of these two blank characters to carry a movie and for their like relationship issues to be a story. So they have to throw in like kidnapping and arson and all this other stuff, and it's like, wow, we are really reaching to fill this thing.
No, you know what? She's always good. Despite the material, Dakota Johnson has this really lovely presence about her, and she has really good comic timing. I think she has. I think she has her mom's presence, Melanie Griffith's presence in her comic timing in a lot of ways, and she does the absolute best she can with some truly insipid dialogue. He gets worse. She gets better, and he gets worse. He's so empty and so boring and just blandly hot. He's just abs.
Well, she's appealing, but the character has become such a dingbat by this point that it's kind of like, oh God.
All she wants to do is go have a martini with her girlfriend.
When she's talking about like, I do work things, and then like there's a scene where we see her like, make that typeface 2 points larger. It's like, oh, I don't.
That's delegating.
That's not how
She's
any of this
delegating.
works.
Well, and then like she gets the promotion and she's getting side eye. Like
She gets a promotion at the company that her husband owns.
Well,
Let's
and
be
then,
clear.
you know,
She
there's-
earned it though.
Oh,
There's a few
totally.
things that
Yeah.
like would come up, and I thought, oh, I wonder if this means something later. And then they never deliver on story potential. Like,
Except for the literal Chekhov's gun.
well, right, yes,
Matt
Chekhov's
Church,
gun. I was
Matt
so
Church.
happy.
He goes, Chekhov's
Right,
gun,
gun shows up. I turn to
yay.
Christy. I'm like, oh, an actual Chekhov's gun. I was very excited.
See it again.
They, you know, there's the bit where it turns out like, oh, the book, 200,000 pre-orders. That's amazing. And I thought, well, obviously the husband, obviously
bought them
Christian
all up.
bought those all, right? But they
They're
never
all
say
in a
that.
garage somewhere.
There's a scene where there's
You did good at work today, sweetie. 200,000 books got sold.
right. Then there's a scene where they have sex on a table, and I'm thinking like, And then the next thing you see is not the rest of the people staying at that house eating at that table and having Christian and Anna look at each other like,
Yes.
right? That would have been great, but oh no.
Well, there is a moment where, again, we never see anything in these movies, but there's an implication that an object has been inserted, and then we see her at work later looking very kind of. She does a lot of this, and I thought. Is the object still there, or is she just thinking about when it was there? We don't know.
I think she's still in pain from having had the object inserted inside of her, so that's very soothing tea she is having to help regulate herself again.
I'm just going to point out that this is maybe not the day that I had my mom in the studio watching us review a movie.
Yes.
Sorry, Mom.
Sorry, Mom. We talk about wholesome films.
You are the target market for this movie, though. Yes,
She's
your
not
demo is yes.
Getting a little red.
Who bought the book? Okay, not you personally.
I'll admit that I read all 3 of the books.
Yes, but out of research, I know.
Totally out of research, yes. So you know what though? These movies keep getting worse. So Sam Taylor Johnson directed the first one, and she got the innate ridiculousness of all of this. And then James Foley did these last 2.
Yeah.
And I don't know that he knows it's bad. I think he's trying to play it straight, but then there are moments of massively unintentional hilarity. Like, I'm not gonna tell you what song he
Oh my God.
There's a serenade.
Because if I
meant to be romantic.
right, because if we mention
The best-
Climax Blues Band,
The biggest laugh.
everyone will know the song.
The biggest laugh of the year so far is that moment.
Yes.
This is wow.
This is one of the funnier movies I've seen all year,
Yeah.
and it's completely unintentional.
Yeah.
And
I
I'm a
mean,
big fan of unintentional
I
comedy.
kind of like the second one a little better than the first one, only because the 2 leads don't look like they hate having to be naked next to each other. But yeah, this one is, if you're here for the luxury porn, there's plenty of it. There's like cars speeding through and
Not just any cars. What kind of cars are they?
Audis.
This spanking is brought to you by Audi.
Yeah, and there's like house renovation and Aspen in summertime and.
But then there's these like, among other problems with this movie, like the dialogue is terrible. The story is as soapy as you could possibly imagine, and which would somewhat be okay. But then, this is a thing, and I've talked about this in various reviews. When there's glimpses of competence, that actually makes a movie like this worse, because there's a scene.
It throws the rest of it into relief.
Right,
yeah.
because there's a scene, for instance, where they're in the playroom and he's punishing her because he's mad at her, and she calls him out on that. And that's an effective scene, right? Like that's like, oh, okay, I see where this movie could be. She says, look, this isn't what we're meant to do. She uses her safe word. She's like,
You're punishing me, you're not.
You're actually mad at me.
Yeah.
This isn't
not consensual
this isn't,
fun.
Right.
No. Yeah.
But then there's later an argument that they have where she's now, and after that happens, she covers herself up and she kind of like puts some distance between them, right? Like, okay, I need to be protected. I'm feeling vulnerable. I'm not feeling comfortable with you. And I found it somewhat inconsistent that later when they're having the argument, as she's come out of the shower and they're arguing, she then proceeds to get dressed and she's half clothed as she's having the same level of argument. And it's not that I felt like she was flaunting it, but I thought, well, that was inconsistent with the way we've seen this character cover up when she's not feeling safe with him.
But she had to go to work. She was late for work.
She was late for work, exactly. She was angry and in a hurry. It was, there's a lot happening.
It
in
just
this
felt
for both of those.
But it just felt like that was one of those places I'm like, of all the times in this movie, like that's where you decide she's going to be half naked?
She can't be late for the job, the company that he owns. That
She
would
has
just
to talk about font sizes. Yeah, yeah. No, it's terrible. It's pretty, but terrible.
Yeah,
but I had
pretty
fun.
terrible.
It's pretty terrible. Although I have to say, like the ice cream scene, they're at least trying.
Okay, but that also I think is their vague intent to be self-referential and
To
have
9.5
humor.
weeks?
9.5 weeks, but also like. She says she wants to have vanilla sex, right? Before she agrees to the kink in the first one, she's like, oh, I want to have vanilla sex. Oh, he refers to it as vanilla because it's not involving handcuffs.
There's at least a caramel swirl in there, though. And
yes.
maybe that's the metaphor ice cream.
I really wanted
There's
to see
also
that.
there's a funny handcuff joke. I will say there's one funny
right.
handcuff joke.
There's like one or two actual intentionally good bits, but then there's so many missed opportunities. And look, like, are we spoiling stuff in this movie? Sure, who cares? I really wanted to see that ice cream go back in the freezer. I really wanted to see that.
A lot of missed opportunities.
And then see somebody else eat it later and then be like,
This is true. Anyway, my one hope for this, in the same way that like the Twilight movies were pretty ridiculous, but it gave us Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson, who are like two really interesting actors doing really good work. Now Dakota Johnson is 50 Shades freed of this bullshit and can go do interesting things.
And she has.
No, she has, but
no, she did. Luca Guadagnino is a bigger splash.
That's true. You're right.
She has, but Jamie Dornan has not capitalized on it. I don't think,
but he's he has the TV show. The
right, so
what was it, the comedy she did with?
How to Be Single.
How to Be Single. Like that had its moments.
I loved her hosting SNL.
Yeah, look, like as bad as this dialogue is, and as many problems with this movie has, if they'd had, we talked a little bit about this last night, that Charlie Hunnam was originally supposed to play this role, and if you'd had someone that there was actual chemistry with her, we'd probably have significantly different reactions. And when we were talking on Wine the Flick last night, or afterwards, I kind of mentioned there's Original Sin, which is that terrible movie with Antonio Banderas
and Angelina Jolie.
And that movie is awful, but they have really good chemistry together, right? And so you were at least like, well, at least the sex scenes are kind of interesting.
Like
sorry, Mom.
No, but they're both like smolderingly sexy. Like neither Dakota Johnson nor Jamie Dornan is like radiating heat.
But I don't think these movies really want them to be sexy, because these movies are so afraid of what they're about. Like, this is a movie about, like, seriously kinky dude with a messed up past and, like, vanilla girl who saves him from everything. And the whole movie is this long process of her turning him into, like, the
normal Family Guy.
Well, turning him into the fantasy that Harley Quinn has in Suicide Squad about washing machines.
Right.
Well, making him as blind as possible. I wanted the movie to end with the two of them in bed with a screaming colicky baby between them, and both of them look at the ceiling going, oh my God, what have I done?
And I think we probably touched on this earlier, and we have to wrap up in a second, but it is a little worrisome that, like, his kind of BSDM background comes from him having a really messed up childhood.
Right, which is bullshit.
They stigmatize it, right? But
what's
and the notion that she has, like, un-BDSM'd him is supposed to be some sort of personal.
So we spent too much time. We have to wrap up. We have only a minute left.
I'm saying 2.5 because it's pretty in a mindless way sometimes, and I had a good time with you guys laughing at it last night.
Yeah, I said 3.5 for the sheer gloss of it all, which there is a ton of, but other than that, it's ridiculous. And it's a paycheck for Marcia Gay Harden and Jennifer Ely, who is credited and
it gets not a single word.
It's like 2 seconds in an opening montage, and you never see her again.
I was like, yeah, where's Jennifer Ely? Does she even speak? Anyway,
yeah.
What's your number, Matt?
I give it a 1.3 because it's in focus and lots of laughs, even though they're unintentional.
2.4 is our number. It is at 14% on the tomato meter. I guess if you've seen the first two, you got to find out what happens. So you're going to go anyway. Bye.